Pat and Josh here from GOLFTEC, and what we want to discuss today is how a student would go about getting their putting stroke diagnosed. So, Josh, tell me, what are the things that processes you go through to help a student to improve their putting?
Yeah, I mean, really super question. Like, one of the things I think I find is people don't know what they don't know. Like, they're not the best narrators. They just kind of tell you they suck, and you kind of figure out like what the problem is. And so like we use a handful of tools to kind of figure out, make a plan. And then once we have our plan, then we can give people like ways to train on how to make and execute on that plan like long term. Like, for example, like some of the tools that we use this blast sensor that we put on top of the putters to like kind of give us different details of what's going on during their stroke, things from like how much loft they might add or subtract during a stroke, what their face angle is when they hit it, great one for direction right there, or like literally how fast their putter head's moving through the stroke. So the data that you'll see in this one is from my recent lesson with my friend Bill, struggling with having like 4 3-putts per round. And so we had to kind of figure out like what about his speed control wasn't very good. So when we looked at it, like I found that he was really good at delivering the same loft every time he hit, but like his putter head varied in speed on the same putt. So I had him hit the same 10-foot putt like 10 times. And his putter head speed like went up to half a mile an hour. Different. Like the analogy I made to him is like, you know that like ball that really goes long or really goes short? That's like the equivalent of hitting your driver out of bounds. Like the driver out of bounds is like super obvious, it's out of bounds, but like when you take that 10-foot putt and you roll it 17 feet, like, yeah, it's a bad putt, but like it's still in play, so it doesn't flag to somebody. But like that's the same loss of stroke that is. So we had to look at why in the world that happened. So I saw that. I then went to the video and I went to look at his stroke and see like, okay, like what was going on in his putting stroke. And what I saw was that his putting stroke, his forward stroke was much, much longer than his backstroke. So we set the plan in place for him to control the length of his stroke. We put a template up there like we've got him using now in practice of how to control his putting stroke. We can see we use the Nerf darts to control his stroke. Now he's working on making the same length stroke and tracking how far the ball goes each time so that he can have like a tighter dispersion and hit his putts the same intended distance time and time again. So he walks out with a practice plan of how to do it. Now it's up to him to execute on that plan and see if it shows up on the golf course.
That sounds like a really, really good way for somebody to get better at putting with very specific feedback. So obviously, Bill's doing a lot of doing some really hard lifting with his putting stroke. What's the feedback loop that you would use on the back end of this after he's had some time to practice this? Maybe it's a retest, or how do you take and use this as a launching board?
Yeah, so it's definitely going to start retest. Like he needs to be able to do it in like this like static environment, doing the same thing every time. But at that point, we're going to introduce some variability. So instead of making the same putt again and again and again, we're going to change the lengths. We're going to change the distances. I have some games that I love to test variability. One of my favorites called Leapfrog, to where he has to make the putter or the ball go a different distance, but have a stroke length in advance. But like he needs to be able to cover it like where he's doing the same thing again and again. And once he can do that, we'll introduce different lengths and different distances to the equation.
Sounds like a much more high level after the 101 level. Now he gets to go on to 201 and become a better player from there.
Yeah, and it's more fun. Like when they're not doing the same thing again and again.
That really seems like a great way for him to keep getting better with his speed.
So if you, like Bill, feel like you suck with your putter, come in, check us out, let's get a measure, let's get a plan together, and actually make a difference to what happens out on the greens.